No, tell us about
Yeah.
Sacramento.
So yeah, it was just kind of a thing where I was there to support a friend, Josh Littell, the Master Samurai. He was ring announcing as I was working at Applebee's at the time, and I just happened to go out and kind of give him a watch, and then from there, it's kind of like got pulled me into the business. You know, I started out as a referee for about a month or so, taking bumps, and then just I thought I could pick it up, so I became a wrestler.
And then you went to you came to WLW from there, or was there a
Yeah,
stop in
so
between?
after about no, about 5 years in over there, maybe about 4 or 5 years in. So Sir Samurai, my trainer, Big Ugly, Gabe Jimenez, and another guy, Danny Reynoso, who goes by Flaco Loco, took me to Cauliflower Alley Club in Las Vegas. And then from there, Steamboat, Harley, Les Thatcher would do their seminars there as well. And from there, I remember just thinking, oh, shoot, this school was legit, because Superstar Steve was running the camp at the time. And I just loved the drills. I just loved the intensity of the workout, the discipline that they had, the paying every inch of detail, to bumps, to arm drive, every little thing they nitpicked, and I loved it because, you know what, if you want to make it anywhere in the profession, like, you've got to be perfect in your craft, and that's what kind of sold me on it. So that was about a September when we usually do the Cauliflower Alley clubs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it's like May. Harley used to do the camps in September. So then I saved up for about 8 months bartending, and then I decided to make the move and go out to Eldon at the time, Eldon, Missouri, and then go to the World League Wrestling Academy.
So what was that like, learning from Harley Race?
It was nerve-wracking at times, and at the same time I knew I would, because I mean, you go and you do, he'd pick a couple guys, whatever, you go in the ring, and at the time it wasn't like calling matches or anything like that. You just go in there and then just, hey guys, give me an 8-minute match, and just call it in there, which is, at the time coming out Sacramento in the Bay Area, there was a lot of lucha influence as well. So you kind of call spots and you do all these high-flying things. And out there with Harley was like, well, you can't just call that, like, I'm going to fly off the top rope and do whatever and not have the guy know what's going on. So it was taking your time. It was taking care of the other person in the ring as well as yourself, and making everything count. So it was very nerve-wracking when he'd sit out there and watch, because if you were talking loud or making it obvious, then, he'd call you out on it. And again, which is paying every inch of, paying close attention to detail and perfecting your craft. He was very, this word gets thrown out there a lot now, is kayfabe, and he was all about that. So you can't be making it obvious out there,
For the fans that are sitting here listening, sorry, Bonsai,
yeah.
I apologize. I talk quite a bit, and there's a lag going on, but a little bit. When you moved to Eldon, you came from California, where there's life and a lot of different culture shock, and then to move to Eldon, Missouri.
That's a culture shock.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a town of 2,000.
Three tops.
I mean, there was
on a good
in Eldon, there's maybe, off the top of my head, I can count the stoplights. I think there was four.
That's good. That's good, because ain't nobody there can count them.
I think a couple of them got knocked down, so maybe it's just one or two now.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So the big reality shock was when I first went to, after Cauliflower Club, I also went to another one of Harley's camps where he had the NOAH guys come in and WWE representatives like John Laurinaitis come in and watch. And I remember my first reality shock was getting to Kansas City and thinking, oh, I can just take public transportation or something and get to Eldon, and just being naive, 23-year-old guy. I was thinking I could just, take a bus or train or something like that, and it was not like that. I remember I called BJ like, oh my God, I'm 3 hours away. I don't know how to get there. I can't get a car rental because at the time it was Hurricane Katrina. Like I guess the cars had been gone out of Kansas City Airport. I couldn't rent anything. And luckily, she paired me up with John Cone, another WWE referee right now too, on Raw. But I was able to link up with him, and then the next day, I was able to get a ride out to the camp, and then do the whole week-long camp over there, which is another selling point for me too. I thought it was great. Like, you know, you get exposure to WWE and pro wrestling Noah, which was really hot at the time, and it was the place to be.
So you got to WLW and you trained with Harley and you trained with all the guys and the gals that were there training and working, and you started doing shows. I'm going to go back here for just a second and let's talk about you were SPW Extreme Champion 2 times, SPW Heavyweight Champion 1 time, and you were actually a WLW Tag Team Champion along with Steve Anthony, correct?
Yes.
About 2009-ish?
Yeah, it was funny, because just before I left, I remember, they had a tag team title tournament, I guess, and then Steve Anthony had to relocate back out to Louisiana, so it was a short-lived tag title run.
The infamous Waterloo show, if I'm not mistaken, where the drapes
we
like
vacated
dominoes.
those things, and at that time, I think a lot of things had happened too with at the time BJ being there and her passing away. So, and she really ran the whole company, as far as doing events, doing signs, and making sure everything went smooth. With I think Jason does a great job of doing now, trying to keep the company afloat. Which is, man, thank you for keeping World League Wrestling alive. And then things kind of went south when she kind of left us.
When I don't think a lot of people understand when you came to Eldon, and the students there and the wrestlers there, because they're basically one and the same. We developed a family relationship, and because we were all we had. You and Breaker worked at Chili's at the lake. I'm sorry. And, I believe Lucy later on did as well, if I'm not mistaken. And we were riding
host,
we would ride to these towns, man, and we had to entertain ourselves, and we relied on one another. And I think that's what a lot of guys today don't really understand. I don't know what it's like at other schools. I try to keep that mentality around because, man, for me, wrestling is all we have, and I like to keep it like that,
Yeah, I think out there it was very different than other schools because everyone there, I think at the time was like we either had no kids, really no significant. I had my girlfriend at the time. We're doing long distance, which is my wife now, but it was very like you're alone, right? So I think all you had was your classmates, and that's why I think our group had that special bond. Like a brotherhood, sisterhood. Like we looked out for each other, no matter what, and it was great. Like even with having Go Shiozaki there at the time, too. That year, I mean, you'd think he'd be by himself. He could speak English, but not that great until he started, really hanging out with us and learning more of the language. But it was always keeping each other entertained and keeping each other like out of trouble almost too. It was that time there was great. I mean, there was I felt like there was a couple generations. Like you had the Trevor Murdochs, Matt Murphys, Superstar Steve, Darren Wade, Wild Wade, and those guys were kind of like the first group of guys. That when I got there, those were the 5 guys I knew were kind of looking out after us as we did matches and all those things in the ring as well at the school. And then as time went by, it kind of changed over as those guys kind of left a little bit. It was like myself, Steve Anthony, Darren was still there. Trevor stopped in every now and then, and a Breaker, and then yourself there too. That was kind of like the new crew that came in, but we still kept everything intact. Johnny Pantoja too, he was a good one there as well.
Right. So when, as your career went on, and you started progressing and you moved forward, you ended up with WWE. you actually had a match with Tyson Kidd, correct?
Yes, in 2008, I believe.
Was there anybody else?
No, that was the only televised one that I did with WWE at the time, and
No dark matches?
And that was one that was actually no dark matches at all. Yeah, that day was a little bit funny. This was actually in Fresno, California. So another big thing too, I guess I'll stress out about the school was going to a reputable school under Harley and everything too. Like once you say the name, hey, I go to Harley Race's school, like World League Wrestling, immediately it catches everybody's attention. So it was one of the things where I knew I had to leave California to go to Harley school because I could be an extra, whether he could call Ty Bailey or talent relations or any of those guys up top. They'd be like, hey, I've got a kid, I want to take a look at. He's going to be in town. Can you book him to be an extra? And it was instant that you will get booked. It wasn't even a question. It was no question. Give me his name, give me his info, and then we can take care of it. So I was going home at the time because I knew they were going to have TV out in California. So that's why it was in Fresno. I got booked as an extra. I had Harley make the call to Ty Bailey, and that was able to happen. So we go through the entire day, and they were supposed to use TJ Perkins that day to wrestle Tyson Kidd. And I guess TJ had a little bit of gear that was out there. So it was one of the last minute thing where I had just gone out of catering. And they're like, hey, we need all you extras to dress up in gear again. We're going to have to switch out and see what, who can work Tyson Kidd. So, and I just had 2 plates of like steak, lobster. Oh, no.
Jeez. Spent too much time in catering.
Yeah, so we go, I thought my day was over. So we go in there and then gear, and John Laurinaitis goes, well, we use him now. He points at me because I had some black trunks, black kick pads, black shoes. Everything was pretty plain, right? Nothing special about me except the blonde mullet. So
what?
So then, so then they send me in, and then and then luckily we had a good match. Just quick 5 minutes. John Cone was the referee too, and everything went from there. I thought everything would go good, but didn't hear anything from the company. So yeah, that was the only match I really did with WWE.